Good evening. Today we are going to start with project cost management. And in project cost management, we have got very few processes, but they are really very important processes because all the estimation of the cost and the budget, everything is calculated here, and we have to follow it up with our schedule and all other activities. Therefore, cost has its own importance. The subject of cost in itself is of extreme importance otherwise from the financial point of view. So we have got in project management a small little extract of the whole thing, and that is just the management of the cost of our project. We are not concerned about the whole organization here, so we are only talking about the cost of the project. So in planning, the very first thing we need to do is to develop a cost management plan, and the process for that is plan cost management, that is 7.1. We have got three processes in planning, 7.1, 7.2 and 7.3. First, we develop the cost management plan, which encompasses the rules, the guidelines, how to create the estimates and how to determine the budget. And it also tells us what tools can you use for doing that. Although as with the other management plans we have studied, cost management plan does not know what the cost will be, what the budget will be, but it tells us the rules of estimating and determining the budget. And later on, how this cost is to be controlled, what mechanism, what method is to be used for controlling the cost. This all is going to be covered in control cost, which is part of monitoring and control process group. So cost management plan, project cost management as a whole includes the processes involved in planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing, and controlling cost. So all of these aspects of managing cost are included here. We plan the cost, we estimate it, we budget it, we do the financial arrangements, we organize how much funding is to be required at what stage of the project, and then later on in monitoring and control, we manage the cost and we control it through some mechanism so that the project can be completed within the approved budget. And that is our target. Like, in time, we wanted to do the project within the specified time. Here, we want to do the project within the cost because we don't want to overspend. So, brief description of each one of these processes. Plan cost management, as I have just shown you, the process to establish the policies, procedures, and documentation for doing all other jobs like planning, execution, expanding, controlling, all the subsequent tasks, all the subsequent processes, how they will be done, the policies, procedures, and guidelines are provided here. Okay?
Excuse me, sir. I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, as we know that the main project has been approved. Everything has been like we have gone through like schedule and everything. Cost is coming like after all those things, and we had accepted the project, from the customer or whoever, but we are going to do the cost now. So how does it work? Like, if we are going to calculate the cost so late, I mean, how are we going to manage it? I mean,
okay. That does not mean that you did not have any idea of how much the project will cost. You already, before you place your bid for the project, you had some idea, you did some high level calculations, and you had an estimate at that stage also. And then you must have added some profit or other expenses into it, and you must have placed your bid accordingly. And later on, there must have been some negotiation in the contract, and ultimately you were awarded the contract on some cost. So that is the available money which you are expecting you will get. But that is not the money which will actually be spent on the project, because the detailed work of the project must cost lesser than that amount, because we have to pay for many other expenses on top of the project. We have to get the profit out of it. Therefore, that amount which the contract has been agreed upon has absolutely nothing to do with actually how much will be spent on the project. Now we know that, say this is a $6 million project and it has been awarded to us. Now when the project manager is assigned this job, at that stage project sponsor asks him to do the detailed calculation, how much money he would require, when he would require that money, what would be the funding pattern, and how will he spend that money. Now naturally, as we have already said, it should be less than the contracted amount. If it is not less than the contracted amount, that means our initial estimate was grossly wrong, right? Then because we are already in contract and we have bid for $6 million and we have bought this project in $6 million, and the estimate of the project is that everything said and done, this project will take $9 million. So who will pay for those 3 million extra? If you have agreed with the buyer, with the customer, that he will only pay you 6 million and you want to do this project, then probably the remaining 3 million will be paid by the company itself, and company will not be earning anything out of it. This will be a thankless job. So this estimate is important. This is the detailed estimate. Although there are many kinds of estimates. There are estimates which are done before the project is started, and naturally they cannot be that detailed, they cannot be so accurate, but you see, you build in some margin in that. Like somebody asked you, I have to construct a house, how much will it cost me? Now you don't know the drawing, you don't know the design of the house, you even don't know how much space is available, and you say, okay, well, my experience says normally a house can be built in about, say, 20 crore rupees or something like that. So this is what it is. This is a estimate which is a very lump sum estimate, which doesn't cater for anything. But then later on, when you are a bit more aware about the situation, and you have got the statement of work is in front of you, and you are exactly trying to quote for something, you do a bit more detailed estimate. But still at this stage you do not know exactly how much money will be spent on ground. So you put in some margins and you say, okay, well, this is 1 canal land and he wants to have 3 bedrooms, and one bedroom will cost about this much, and the land development will cost about this much. So approximately this house can be built not more than in this much amount. Say your estimate is 5 million rupees, and you say, okay, this is what this house can be built in. You quote for that naturally after building in your margin, and you say, I will ask for 6.5 million, and after negotiation you are awarded the contract at the cost of 6 million. Now you already knew that this can be done in 5 million, and 1 million is your other expenses and profits. Now you ask your project manager, when you hire him, how much will the project actually cost on ground? Naturally, if your estimate was right, then he must be asking something around 5 million. And you would prefer that if he asks less than that, if he says 4 or 4.5, you are more happier than ever, because you are going to save more money. But if he asks, he says it will cost you 5.5 million, then probably you are a bit shocked. You say, okay, if this job has to be done, still I'll be saving something, but I'm spending more on the project from my profits, from my other expenses. Therefore, you will try to debate with the project manager why and how he has estimated this cost and how it can be reduced and all that. And ultimately, you assign him the budget according to that budget has to be assigned after due diligence, after discussion and agreement of both the sides, the project manager and the project sponsor, and whomsoever is responsible for the budget. You have to negotiate between these two people what should be the price fixed for this project to be actually done. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. That part is definitely clear because we are going to break down things to a smaller level
Smaller.
and
Exactly.
see how everything goes. So the only because cost is the main thing, everything is dependent on it.
Right.
I just wanted to ask one more thing, like how does it really work in the real world? Like if I am going to give out a contract, for
Right.
example, I am the one who is the customer and I
Mhm.
am giving out the contract.
Right.
So obviously I have to do the cost estimation as well. So
Mhm.
how does it work in the real world? Like how much people give margin or how they do it? Because
Okay.
I want to save money. The
Mhm.
one who is going to do it, he wants to save money. So how it works?
Okay. Okay. As a buyer, you know that you need a house, and you have an option whether you build it yourself or you get it outsourced to some contractor and he can make it for you. First, you will develop your own estimate. May it be lump sum estimate, may it be a little more detailed estimate. A little more detailed estimate is called a budgetary estimate. Um, so you may go for a kind of a budgetary estimate, and you are fairly clear how much the house will cost, and say your estimate is about 5 million, maybe 4.75 million, right? Now you know that this is the cost you have to pay if you do it yourself. But if you are asking someone else to do it, then he has to take all the pains and you are free. You have to pay for that. You see, you can make your own food, but you go to market and you pay for it and you buy food from the market, cooked food, it costs you more. How much does it cost you more? It is more than 2 to 3 times of the cost of the equipment and the material that you pay in a hotel. So that means that you are paying for your comfort. So anyone who wants to give out a contract, he understands that he has to pay a premium for this luxury. So if he will understand that this is my cost and there will be something built over it. So with this picture in mind, he will go for the statement of work, he will look for the bids, and once the bids are received, then he evaluates from the perspective of his own calculation. His own independent estimate was 4.75 and the bids which have come are 5 million, 7 million, 10 million, 8 million. So naturally it would be his preference to go for the minimum cost, but at the same time he wants the job to be done in good quality. So naturally he would evaluate the whole thing in a way that his quality requirements are also met, as well as the job can be done as low as possible. So that is exactly why he has gone for the 6 million figure, because your company asked for 6.5, you knew you could negotiate it a bit, so you talked to them and you were assured that you will get the desired quality, and ultimately you negotiated and agreed on paying 6 million. So you are paying 1.25 million extra than your calculation, and that is the premium you have to pay for this contract. And naturally you have agreed upon it for your own luxury. Otherwise you could have done it yourself.
Okay, sir, got it. Thank you.
So now is the stage when I am the project manager. I have been assigned this project and project sponsor has asked me to plan, and now I am planning the cost. Naturally, the schedule also is being planned at the same time. And as I said, cost estimate, resource estimate, and the duration estimate all are happening simultaneously. So at this stage, I have to come up with a detailed estimate, which is called bottom-up estimate, and this is the maximum detail one can go to in presence of whatever kind of uncertainties are there in the project. This is the maximum detail you can go into. So there are three types of estimates. One is the lump sum estimate, then is the budgetary estimate, and that estimate with the project manager prefers to do is the detailed estimate. So coming back to the definitions, the estimate cost is the process of developing an approximation. You see, estimate is always an approximation. It is, you are never ever going to be sure about how much money will exactly be spent. So you can make a best guess. You say this job will take 35 rupees, but actually on ground it takes 35.5 rupees. So actual data will actually be the correct cost. But this is just an estimate of the cost, and this is the closest approximation you could do. That is why this is called the detailed estimate. So this is the approximation of the monetary resources needed to complete the project activities. So this is the estimate of the project manager. Uh, the people who are having a figure from the company side are the project sponsor or from the finance department. They are there to determine the budget, and naturally we don't want the budget to be enforced on you. They just give you a figure, okay, we will just give you this much money, but do it in this. Now, what if they say we will give you only 2 million rupees? How can I do this project which that my estimate says it will take 5 million, and you are asking me to do it in 2 million? How can that be possible? That would be cruel. So the person who is assigning the budget must be sane enough, must be, accommodative enough as to listen to the plight of the project manager, see and check the estimates the project manager has done, look at his justifications, and only after he has found some flaw in the calculations, he can comment on that, well, you have asked more money in this head. Why is it more? If you can provide a justification and your justification is fine, then he cannot any further object on it. But if your justification is not enough, or your calculations are somehow faulty or wrong, then naturally you will correct them and the estimate will be revised, and that's how you negotiate. Moreover, one more thing, and that is, when somebody is assigning you the budget should not be assigned for the whole project as a whole. It should be assigned down to the activity level. You must have a debate with the person giving the budget, that how much is the budget for this activity, how much budget is for this activity. Or if he is not assigning that, then this is the responsibility of the project manager to ensure that he has a clear picture of how much budget he will be spending for each and every activity. Because estimate and budget are different. Estimate was an approximation. Budget is a commitment. I am now committing this much money to be spent on this activity. So this is the difference between estimate and the budget. Estimate is prepared by the person who asks for money, and determined budget is the process done by the person who gives the money. It may be within the organization, but this person is with the person who is giving you the money, assigning you the money. He has the power. The process, but determined budget is the process of aggregating the estimated cost. So whatever estimates you have created, this person is going to aggregate it, sum it all up, and establish an authorized cost baseline. How much money should be spent at what time in the project? Exactly how much money will be required at what point in time during the life of the project. How the money should be released, that is another subject, which is called funding reconciliation. How much funding should be reconciled to the project at one stage? At what stage? You see, um, the the need for money in the project is kind of a continuous process, a continuous need. It's just like, money is required to be dropping into the project all the time, consistently throughout the life of the project. But the money cannot be dropped like that. It has to be given to the project manager or to the project in certain installments. When he starts the project, he will probably be given a mobilization advance, and that could be enough to suffice for say 1 or 2 months. And then the next installment will come in, and that will again be enough for next 3 or 4 months, and so on and so forth. So these installments, these funding reconciliations are decided by the determined budget process. Once the budget has been determined, that means every activity has been assigned a value as far as the cost is concerned. How much money is reserved for each activity, that is known. That is called the planned value of that activity, or you can say budgeted cost of work scheduled. For that specific work, this is the budgeted cost. This is the assigned cost. This is the planned value. And now when we control the project, control the cost, we will consider this amount because we should not be spending more than that. But actually on ground, when we execute the project, actually on ground, the money which will be spent might be different. So for this activity, you kept 35 rupees, but actually you spent 35.5 rupees. What is the impact of spending 0.5 rupees extra? This is a variation. It could be 34.5, it could be 35.5. So either you spend more money or you spend less money, both are variations. If you spend more money, this is bad. This is a negative variation. If you spend less money, this is good because this is positive variation. Therefore, we would desire whether we want to do the job in the assigned cost, and if we can save money, if we can do the job in less money, that is good. But if we are spending more, then we have to control it. That is what is control cost. Is a process of monitoring the status of the project to update the project cost and managing changes to the cost baseline. So these were just the definitions. Now let's see. Just like schedule management or time management, we said there also that all the processes shown in planning were, although discrete processes, but generally they are handled in a simple project by a single person. He is responsible for doing all the work of time management. He is identifying the activities, sequencing, and is estimating the durations and all that. Here also, the cost estimation and cost budgeting are so tightly linked and can be viewed as a single process that can be performed by a single person over a relative short period of time. But that again depends upon the complexity of the project. If it is complex, then probably this job, because this has got separate tools and techniques to be used for estimation and separate for the budgeting. Therefore, in complex projects, this job might be done by two different people or more than two people. These are presented here as distinct processes. They are separate. Cost estimation is treated as a separate process and cost budgeting is treated as a separate process because their tools and techniques are different. The ability to influence cost is greatest at the early stages of the project, making early scope definitions critical. Why? Because when we are estimating, we say this job will take 35 rupees. And if we recognize a variation right now, we see that our calculation was wrong maybe. So we can correct it immediately because nothing so far has been done. We are not yet in execution. So the cost of change is minimal in the beginning of the project. But if the job has already started, if we are in execution, then all that work which has already been done cannot be corrected. So we can apply the correction to the remaining work, and that will cost more. So ability to influence cost is greatest in the beginning, but later on there is a lot of resistance that cost should not be changed. But naturally, if there are certain uncertainties and certain risks which will happen and which will delay your project or overspending is done in your project, then you have to tackle that as an issue and you have to resolve the issue, and that should be done through the change control. On the other hand, you have a number of stakeholders you have identified, and each one of the stakeholders has got a different mindset and different requirements. Even from the perspective of the project cost management, you should consider the stakeholder requirements for managing cost. There might be one stakeholder who, say your boss, he wants you to spend less money and do more job. Whereas, the client, the customer, he's not bothered how much money is spent because he has to pay whatever is agreed amount. So if you are spending more and he is getting quality out of it, he is satisfied with that. So he is not really bothered how much you spend. Rather, he would force you to give him the quality no matter how much you spend. But at the same time, if they are the agreed terms, if he is asking you something which was not agreed in the specifications, in the requirements, then you will charge him extra. You will move a change request for the renegotiation of the contract. But within the agreed terms, he is not bothered how much you are spending. So different stakeholders will measure the project cost in different ways at different times. For example, cost of an acquired item may be measured when the acquisition decision is made or committed. So you are acquiring an item, and at the time the decision was made that this item will be acquired, maybe that time was 3 months earlier, and they created an estimate and they said it will be costing us 10,000 rupees. But now when I am going to market to buy it as a project manager, that is costing me 20,000 rupees. So what should we do? That is exactly why we need to estimate in the beginning of the project. When we start the project, project manager has to create his own estimate, as if there is a lot of variation in the early estimates and this estimate, then the perspective should be put right. Then there is another cost when the order is placed, at the time of placing the order, at the cost at the time the item is delivered, the actual cost incurred on ground, which is recorded for project accounting purposes. So these could be different costs for the same item. So where you stand, which cost are we talking about? We are talking about the detailed cost estimate of the project manager, and we are talking about the actual cost which will be spent on the job. These two costs we will later be comparing. Primary concern is the project cost management is primarily concerned with the cost of the resources needed to complete project activities. If you need, it is not the money you actually need, you need resources, and you have to pay for those resources. May they be human resources, may they be machines or other resources or raw materials or whatever. So they will cost some money. That is exactly why you need money. So you estimate the resources first and then allocate cost according to it. It should also consider the effect of project decisions on the subsequent recurring cost of using, maintaining and supporting the product, service or result. So if you are estimating something, the cost is very low in the beginning, but when the project will be delivered, it will be the running of that system would be very expensive. So is it a wise decision? This should have been done during the feasibility of the project. Project might cost less, but actually running that product will cost a lot to the organization. That is probably not a good project, and it should not be started. I'll give you the example of these Chinese companies working in Pakistan in telecommunication. What they're doing is they're enticing the client by their very low rate, very extremely low rates. Rather, they have resorted to even providing sometimes completely free equipment and services in the contract. Their contract will be so cheap that sometimes they even claim that we will deliver you the equipment completely free of cost. But what is the catch in it? The catch is they deliver you the equipment and they install the equipment and everything free of cost, but then they start charging maintenance, and that maintenance cost is huge. That is recurring and that is huge. Actually what they plan is they plan to recover the whole cost of the project from the operations. And if it is just to be paying for 1, 2 or 3 years, that is enough. But they actually have installed their machinery which cannot be replaced, and if that has to be used, then you have to pay by an arm and a leg, a huge cost, and that is a recurring cost. So this also must be considered. This is also within the domain of the cost, that the feasibilities should be right. The cost considered while you're doing the feasibility must have that thing in mind. For example, limiting the number of design reviews can reduce the cost of the project, but could increase the resulting product's operating cost. If you are not reviewing the project regularly and you're saving money there, ultimately the product you will deliver will have many flaws, and there will be a lot of operating cost later when this project is and the product is handed over to the operations, because there are a lot many flaws are going to be there. So this is exactly the example where we say penny wise, pound foolish. You are saving pennies here, but there you are spending pounds. You are ready to spend pounds just to keep the project cost low. This is not a good idea. So proper feasibility should have been done. Predicting and analyzing. In many organizations, predicting and analyzing the prospective financial performance of the project's product is performed outside of the project. In others, project cost management can include this. What do you mean? That exactly what I mentioned is talking about feasibility study. It says those feasibility studies, prediction and analysis should be done before the project is not as a part of the project in most of the cases. But in some projects, feasibility could be a part of the project as a phase, as a sub-project or something like that. But generally speaking, the feasibilities, the predictions and analysis, how you expect the things to go on, all the feasibilities should be done beforehand, before the approval of the project. If it is included in the project cost management, the project cost management may address additional processes and numerous general financial management techniques such as return on investment, discounted cash flows, investment payback analysis. These are all the tools for conducting the feasibility studies. But remember, these are not only for feasibility studies. These are for cost benefit analysis, and cost benefit analysis can be carried out before the project, or it could be carried out for any decision within the project. If you see you have to introduce a quality requirement, you have to do the cost benefit analysis of that. How much you will have to invest in it, how much you will get out of it, is it all right, is it feasible or not? And return on investment, discounted cash flow and all this, these are the various methods of cost benefit analysis. The cost management planning effort occurs early in the project planning. Naturally, planning is done in the beginning and sets the framework for each of the cost management processes so that performance of the process will be efficient and coordinated. These are the four processes shown in front of you, but we will discuss each one of them in detail. Before we can move on to these processes, let me talk a bit more about the project assessment, or for that matter, we said the feasibility, the predicting and analyzing thing. We have to talk about that. How do you assess a project? Forget about project management right now. How do you assess any situation in your organization? How do you do the assessment? Generally speaking, the ultimate decision lies with the financials or the economics of the project or the decision. Which costs you less? That is generally considered the only option, but that is not. Actually, there is a hierarchy of assessments you have to go through. The top level hierarchy is the strategic assessment. Next level is the technical assessment. And the third and lowest level is the economic assessment. But the problem is economic assessment is mandatory, whereas strategic assessment and technical assessment could be optional. If there are no technical or strategic restrictions on the project or the decision you are trying to make, then the decision would be taken by the economic assessment. But if there is a technical requirement existing, that will supersede the economic assessment, and technical assessment will be exercising more power. And if there is a strategic requirement, then strategic assessment is top on the priority, and that can supersede any technical or even economic assessment. Like see, you have your business is not going well in the well, and still you have to show, you have to keep up your reputation. You don't want to show to the market that you are not doing well. So for upkeep of your image, you have to do a project, and that project you are ready to do it at a very low cost, such low cost that it will not even pay for the price of the project itself. As I gave you the example, the project is you could have asked for 6 million, but you do not know, you're not sure that you will get the project, and you desperately want the project. The minimum money which it is required to do that project is 5 million, and you have agreed to do it in 3 million. You are going to invest 2 million from your own pocket just for the repo of your organization, just to show the market that you are in business. So this is a strategic decision. This is not a technical decision. This is not an economical decision. Economically, this is infeasible. Technically also it might not be right. But strategically, this is the matter of our respect. This is the matter of our existence. Therefore, we'll do it. This is commitment. So you see, strategic assessment, how it can kill the technical and economic assessment, and it can supersede everything. So the decision taken by the strategic management is normally sometimes felt like it is not, this is not right. Why have they taken this decision? This is economically so dangerous. This is technically so bad. But still, why are we doing it? Because that is strategically important. So that I wanted to highlight. But generally, when there is no strategic limitation and no technical limitation, it is always the economic decision which matters. The lowest cost probably is your decision. For strategic assessment, you naturally have to look at the high level things. What are the objectives of the organizations? If I'll give you a scenario. If you have got 5 projects to pick from, all the 5 projects have been already found feasible, and you are the project sponsor, and you have been given these 5 projects, and this is your responsibility to get these 5 projects done. But the funding allocated to you is only enough to start 2 projects. Which project will you start first? Again, you are stuck in the same situation. So you will go through the whole assessment process, the strategic assessment, the technical assessment, and the economic assessment. And in strategic assessment, you will see which of these 5 projects is best aligned with my organizational strategy. Which of these 5 projects have the best information systems plan? What kind of organizational structure is required for this project? Does that organizational structure exist in the organization? Which is the best fit? So considering all these various options, like what kind of personnel are available to me and what kind of personnel are required by these 5 projects, whichever project is can accommodate your existing workforce and you don't have to hire people from outside, probably you will give priority, strategic priority to that project. And lastly, image, the repo. If you are doing something for the image or repo of your organization, then probably that can supersede anything else. So these are some of the strategic requirements. Similarly, if your project is part of a program that changed the whole scenario. Again, this is a strategic view. There are two projects which are exactly similar, but one is a new project and one is going to be a part of a program. Both are new projects, but one is an independent project and one is a project to be included in a program. Now the project which is to be included in a program, no matter it is as feasible as the other project, but this project gets the precedence just because of the fact that this is part of a bigger whole, the program. So program, you know and understand, this is a collection of the project. So a well-defined programming, it should have a well-defined programming goal. All projects selected and tuned to meet the organizational objectives. Viability, timing and resources and final worth of the project may be affected by the program. So program has a big inertia, a big momentum. So program will lend its power, its feasibility, its applicability at strategic level to the project, and that project will become more honorable, more respected as compared to other projects. So in priority, this project will be considered at a strategic high level. Similarly, if we are talking about the portfolio management, uh, you understand that portfolio decides the investment decision making for all the projects. You also understand that portfolio management is responsible for prioritizing the projects. So what is the priority of these 5 projects? Which project is on the top priority, which is second, third or fourth? This priority is going to decide, because this we are talking from the organizational strategic point of view. Strategically, which project is more important should be given more priority. Then we have got technical assessment, and you understand we have got many technical reasons to do certain things. If it is the logical next step that we should do this project, then which is technically more sound out of the 5 projects I am choosing from, which of the projects is technically more sound? If I do not have any strategic restriction, then I must consider technical feasibility for these projects, and that could be after evaluating their hardware and software available, existing strategic information system, limitations on the nature of the solution, which is more constrained a project solution. Limitations and constraints both will govern me. If there are technical limitations, technical constraints, then I would not prefer that project which is more having more problems. I would like to go for a project which is having less limitations and less constraints. Last but not the least is the economic assessment, which is the mandatory assessment. Whether strategic assessment and technical assessment are there or they are not there. Economic assessment will always have to be done, and that is dependent on doing the cost benefit analysis. Cost benefit analysis calculates on a very high level all the possible investments we have to make in this project and what all are the outcomes in long run. It is not only the product we are talking about. We are talking about this product will be made from the project and later will go into operations, and operations will recover the cost in this much years. So you see, we are thinking long term. We are not only thinking from the project perspective only. So all the benefits which ever going to be yield out of this project all have to be considered in the cost benefit analysis, and they have to be tabulated in the form of money. The benefits have to be translated into dollars. Only then can you compare them with the investment, and ultimately you know whether you are having more benefits than the costs or not. If you have more benefits, then it is feasible, economically feasible. There are several steps in the cost benefit analysis. We have got we have to find the development cost, operating cost. We have to find, compare it with the existing systems. The net benefit is the total benefit minus the total cost. What is the net benefit? That is all the all the benefits coming out of the project, the, the monetary value of that with all those benefits minus all the cost we have invested in the project. So if the difference is positive, that means we are still left by net benefit. But if it is negative, that means the net benefit, there is no net benefit. We are rather spending more and getting less. So if the value of net benefit is positive, this sounds like it is feasible. And if this value is 0 or negative, that means it is not feasible. But you see, the cost and benefits both must be measured in the same units. You can't say that one thing is in dollars and one thing is in rupees. Or you can't say that, I can't measure the benefit. It gives me a lot of happiness when I do projects. So how can I compare happiness with the cost? You have to somehow allocate a monetary value to your happiness or whatever the benefit is. If it cannot be measured, it must be measured in some way. So as I said, the costs are of three types. First is the development cost. This is the cost of developing an idea, that doing the feasibility studies, consulting people, spending money here and there, and when you are developing the idea. So all this cost is the developmental cost. Then is a setup cost. Once you have decided to do it, then you have to put in your initial investment, the mobilization advance and all that, to put on the machinery and everything, and that is the setup cost. And after you have set it up, then you start performing on it and you start paying the operational cost. As far as the benefits are concerned, benefits are also of several types, three types. One is the direct benefit. You wanted to create a car, and so you got the car. So there must be, if you have a deliverable, it is accessible. How much is the cost of the car? In how much will it be sold? Then you can always compare how much money have you spent in creating this product and how much it is yielding you. Whatever it should yield must be more than the cost, and that is your profit. So these are the direct cost benefits which can be measured easily. There are some accessible but indirect benefits. Like you were creating this car, but during this process you invented a new fuel injection mechanism, and that mechanism also could earn you money. That is a secondary deliverable. It's an indirect benefit, and you can assess the benefit out of that also. So such like secondary benefits, the secondary deliverables could give you accessible indirect benefits. Third is the intangible benefit, a benefit which cannot be measured. Once doing this project has given me a lot of satisfaction. My team has, after doing this project, my team has been happier. So such like things which could not be measured are intangible benefits. So all these benefits somehow must be allocated some cost, some monetary value, as if I can compare them with the sum of all the costs. So sum of all the benefits minus sum of all the costs will give me the net benefit. Are we fine till now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me move on with the cash flow forecasting first, as if you understand how the cost benefit analysis will be done. You see, first of all, cash flow forecasting is done before the work actually starts. You predict, you forecast how much money will be required, when, where and how will it be spent. So you dream on, you create a picture of the whole project in your imagination, and you create a cash flow, how much money will be required at at what stage of the project. So these cash flows, the accuracy of this forecasting is not easy, or that for that matter is not exactly possible that you can forecast something exactly. It needs to be done much early in the project life cycle when nothing has started. Benefits of this forecast could yield over a number of years later. But you have calculated all those benefits beforehand, but they will actually be yielded into the future. You have to ignore the effects of inflation as it increases the uncertainty. You don't know what will be the rate of inflation in the coming years. So you will have to ignore that impact. And you have to assume that whatever is happening to us today will be happening to us later. If expenditure increases, so does the income. So the effect of inflation is, if we are buying things expensive, we will sell things expensive. If we are buying things cheaper, we will sell things cheaper. So the effect of inflation will be neutralized ultimately. This is an example of cash flow forecasting in which the project sponsor has forecasted 4 projects. He has to choose one out of them. And the forecast is on yearly basis here. Project 1 needs an investment of £100,000, and this will yield a benefit of 10,000 after 1 year, 10,000 after the second year, 10,000 after the third year, and 20,000 after the fourth year. Finally, after the 5 years, it will yield 100,000. Similarly, project 2, investment of 10 lakh, first year 2 lakh, then again 2 lakh, 2 lakh, 2 lakh, and in the last year 3 lakh. And project 3 and project 4. So these are the figures of the forecast. What can we find out of it? We find that the money we have invested we will be making out of project 1 is the sum of all the 5 years, which is, what is the figure for the project 1? How much are you going to get at the end of 5 years? Yes.
Which one, sir?
Project 1, the money the benefits you are receiving in 5 years. What are the total benefits?
Sir, net profit, 50,000.
No, not the net profit. I mean net benefit.
Sir, these the amounts per year, are they expenses or benefits?
These are the revenues.
These are the revenues?
So I get 10,000 first year, 10,000 next year, 10 and 10, 20,
Okay.
then 10, 30, then 20, 50, and then 1 lakh. 1 lakh 50,000 is total benefit I will be getting. Right? 1 lakh 50,000
Okay, so
total benefit. And
yeah, we will minus the cost and
yes. What is the total cost is 1 lakh. So 150 minus 1 lakh comes out to be net benefit or net profit is 50,000. Got it?
yes, sir.
So this is how we calculate the net profit. So for every project it has calculated. Project 1 is 50,000, project 2 is 1 lakh, project 3 is 50,000, and project 4 is 75,000. So if I have to make the decision based on the net profit, which is the best project?
Sir, project 2.
Project 2. Right. So we find that there is a method of net profit by which we can find which is the project which is giving us the maximum net profit or net benefit, and that is project 2. But are you satisfied with this decision? Should we give this project 2 the priority?
So in that sense, if we look everything, project 4 looks better because less investment and more profit.
Right. So you understand that the decision we take based on net profit would not be fulfilling because that decision does not cater how much was the investment, right? So this is not a very good picture, although this gives us a broad picture of a net benefit and net profit, and we could base our decision at a very rudimentary level. If I don't have a lot of data, I don't have a lot of time to analyze the situation, and it is a lump sum kind of a situation, probably somebody asks me at, the hem of the moment, which project you think is the best, then probably I will apply the net profit and I will say project 2. But if I want to be a bit more intricate, then I will require to use some other methods to calculate which is the best project. And these are the 5 different methods to do the cost benefit analysis. First one you have already learned, that is the net profit. Then is the payback period. Payback period is used when we want to recover our investment as soon as possible. Maybe I have taken a loan from the bank for starting this business, and my first priority is to pay back the loan as soon as possible, no matter if I am getting any profits or not. Because I will own the business after I repay, then whether I get low profits or more, but business is mine, I can now keep working on it. So payback period only applies to such like situations where the recovery of investment is of prime importance. Return on investment is a little improvement on net profit method, but it caters for the investment which I have made in the beginning. It looks at the profits or revenues from the perspective of the investment we have done. Net present value is yet another method, and it looks at the situation from the perspective of the time value of money. The worth of money today is not going to be same as tomorrow or the next year or 5 years later. Therefore, if we calculate everything from the perspective of the net present value, then the situation will be grossly changed. And lastly, there is a further refinement on the net present value, which is called internal rate of return, and that is the most potent method. I will cover them one by one. First of all, the net profit. You have already understood what the net profit means. Yeah, these are the calculations which you have already seen, net profit calculations. So simply, we have considered the investment as a negative value and all the revenues as the positive values. We have summed them all up and we have come up with these figures. But I said this is not a good estimate. This is a rudimentary and a just lump sum kind of a calculation. And yes, we can base very rudimentary decisions on this. What are the problems with net profit? You see that project 2 appears to be the best, whereas you yourself said that project 4 looks like it is better. But in this net profit thing, project 4 stands nowhere. On the other hand, we also observe that project 1 and 3 have the same net profit value. But if we look at the revenues coming over the years, there is a marked difference. Project 3 is consistently yielding 30,000 per year, whereas project 1 is in the earlier years it is yielding very less, 10,000 per year, and in the later years, 4th and 5th year, it suddenly increases. So does that really matter? Are they equal? Are the project 1 and 3, they have exactly the same value? Should the net profit justify that? Net profit cannot justify that. So this method is not good for finding these various queries. Let's look at the payback period. Which is the project? When does a project pay me back my investment? I invested $100,000 in project 1. I recovered 10,000 in 1 year, another 10,000 in the second year, another 10,000 third year. By the end of third year, I am still short of 70,000. In fourth year, I recovered another 20. I am still short of 50,000. Only in the fifth year will my investment be fully recovered. So this is 4 years plus. Project 2, we have invested 10 lakh and we are recovering 2. So in 4 years, we have hardly recovered 8 and still 2 lakh are to be recovered. And when will they be recovered? In the fifth year, rather in the later part of the fifth year. So this again takes about 4.5 or 4.75 years. Project 3, we invested 1 lakh rupees. We recovered 90,000 in 3 years, and just in the beginning of fourth year we will be able to recover the whole amount. Look at project 3. It takes exactly 4 years to recover all the money. So what is your obvious choice from the payback period? The payback period, the least payback period we have is of project 3, which is almost 3.3 years. Project 4 is 4 years. Project 1 and 2 are more than 4 years. So from payback period, we learn that project 3 is the best option. But I said it only depends upon why are you taking this CN. Because you have to recover your finances earliest. If this is the limitation, then this is the best method for you. Let's move on to the next method. That is the return on investment. Now, return on investment is not a very accurate method, but still it is better than net profit. It is also called ARR, accounting rate of return. It provides a way of comparing net profit with the investment. And how does it do that? You see how much total benefit we got in project 1, 1,50,000. 1,50,000 you got in 5 years. How much in 1 year? Approximately average profit per year is, if I divide 1,50,000 by 5, that would be my yearly average profit. What would be that? 150,000. Okay, forget about 150,000. Look at the net profit. Let's talk about the net benefit, net profit. If you divide 50,000 in 5 parts, that would be?
Sir, almost 10,000.
10,000. 10,000 per year, that is my average annual profit. Divide that by the total investment. 10,000 divided by 100,000. It comes out to be
0.01.
0.01 multiplied by 100. That gives you 10%. So ROI of project 1 is 10%. Similarly, ROI of project 2 is 2%. ROI of project 3 is 10%. And ROI of project 4 is 12.5%. So the best ROI we got is for project 4. So as you were saying, project 4 seems the best. So this is the best from this regard. If we are looking at it from ROI point of view, project 4 is the best one. You see, every method is even better than the earlier one. So return on investment uh, gave us a fairly good estimate, a fairly good decision that project 4 is the best. But there is a flaw in this method also. You see, although it was able to recognize that project 2 is the worst project, but it still could not recognize the difference between project 1 and project 3. Both are having the same ROI, but the behavior of the revenues coming to us is different. One is consistent, other is progressive. Project 1 is progressively increasing. Project 3 is consistently giving us 30,000 throughout, but it does not cater for that. It tells us that both are 10% ROI. So that means there is some flaw still left. What is the next method? Next method is net present value. Now, before I can tell you what the net present value is, I must ask you, do you understand what is a compound interest and what is a simple interest? Yes, please.
Not familiar, sir.
Okay. If I say you have got 100,000 rupees and you can put this money in the bank and bank will give you 10% flat, how much will bank give you after 1 year?
Uh, can you repeat, sir, please?
You had invested, you have put 1 lakh in the bank and the interest rate is 10%. After 1 year, how much will you get profit?
10,000, sir.
10,000. So you withdraw this 10,000, leave the 1 lakh in the bank. Next year it will again give you 10,000. So every year it will keep giving you 10,000. So in 5 years you will get 50,000. And your 1 lakh is still secure. So you can, after 5 years, you can take your 1 lakh out and you have got total of 1 lakh 50,000 rupees. Is that so? But this was a flat rate. If some bank tells you, gives you a loan on 10% flat, that would mean, or you put your money and they say we'll give you interest 10% flat. So if you do not withdraw your 10,000 rupees after 1 year, they will not give you any additional interest on that 10,000, no matter if it keeps lying in the bank. You understand my point? After 1 year,
Yes, sir.
your 1 lakh became 1 lakh 10,000. But because the deal was about only 1 lakh, so that 10,000 which you earned and you did not withdraw, they will not give you any interest on that. They will only give you interest on the basic amount every year. This is called plain interest. But there is a compound interest. That means that the money you leave in the bank, you do not withdraw 10,000, that will also be giving you 10%. So at the end of 1 year, you receive 10,000. Now you have 1 lakh 10,000 in the bank. Then after another 1 year, you will be getting 10% of both these amounts. Meaning out of 1 lakh investment, you will get another 10,000, and out of 10,000, you will get another 10%, which is 1,000 of that. So by the end of 2 years, you will receive, or your bank account will be 1,21,000. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
This is called your interest has been compounded. In third year, the interest you will get would be calculated based on 1,21,000. So that will be 12,100 rupees. So if you add 12,100 rupees to 1,20,000 rupees, that will be 133,100 and 1,33,100 rupees. And if you keep this 133,100 another for one year, you will get another 13,310 rupees. And this will keep compounding every year. Are you okay with it?
Yes, sir. It makes sense.
Okay. But this story I told you about compound interest, that is looking forward, putting the money now in the bank and expecting a future value. So generally speaking, although this does not apply directly to NPV, but if I ask you how much money will you make in 10 years if your money keeps lying in the bank at 10% interest rate for 10 years. So the simple formula, rather than calculating every year, the simple formula for future value, let me write it down for you. The formula for future value would be present value of the money, which is 1 lakh rupees, multiplied by 1 plus interest rate raised to the power number of years. This is your interest rate. Do you understand this? So what is our amount? Our amount is 1, 0, 0, 0, 0 and 0. You multiply this amount with 1 plus 10%. 10% can be written as 10 by 100. 10 by 100 is 0.1. And you are calculating for 10 years. So this whole thing becomes 1.1. So 1.1 raised to the power 10. 1.1 raised to the power 10 would be how much? Do you have a calculator?
Yeah, yes, sir. Let me try. For 2.59.
2.59. 2.59 multiplied by 100,000. That means 2,59,000 rupees.
Yes, sir.
This is the money you are going to get after 10 years. It's almost 2.59 times your amount will be multiplied. Right? This is the future value. Are you clear about it? Can you calculate it for any amount now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have to reverse the whole process. The method I have just told you, you have to reverse this whole process. And what are we doing it? We are not putting the money here today. and we are expecting how much it will be after this 5 years or whatever. We are expecting money to come after 5 years, and we want to determine the value of that money today. So what are we trying to find? We are trying to find the present value of the future money. So this is upside down. The story is upside down. The scenario which I told you was when we were calculating the future value from the planned value, we had an interest rate. Once we are trying to calculate the present value from a future value, then we do not have an interest rate, because interest is only forwards. If we are calculating backwards, it is called discount rate. It is called discount rate. So simply if I reverse this formula, that would be present value, I'm writing here, present value is equal to future value divided by, because this whole amount must go down, divide by front future value, that would be 1 plus, but this will not be interest, this will be called discount value, discount rate, and I am denoting it as R, and it will be raised to the power of the number of years, or you can say T, whatever, T or N, whatever, let's say T. So this is the formula for planned value. Future value divided by 1 plus R raised to the power T, which is exactly what is written here on the right side of this diagram. Present value is equal to the value in year T, that is the future value, divided by 1 plus R raised to the power T. Are you okay with it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I can write it like this, present value is equal to future value multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus R raised to the power T, will it be the same?
But sir, this is the present value, right?
Present value is equal to future value multiplied by 1 raised to divided by 1 plus R raised to the power T.
Yes, sir.
Is it same?
Yes, sir.
Is it same? Right. So what if I can take this portion out? This portion, and when I take it out, is called the discount factor. R was the discount rate. 1 divided by 1 plus R raised to the power T is called the discount factor. Okay. So if somehow I can calculate this discount factor, if I get a value out of the discount factor, I can simply multiply that value with my future value, and that will give me the present value. Are you okay with it?
Sir, but I'm not getting the purpose of it. Like, why are we calculating?
Just isolate this 1 divided by 1 plus R raised to power T. The discount factor, just isolate it.
Yeah, that's true.
How many unknowns are there in it?
R and T.
R and T. If there are only two unknowns, isn't it very easy to find the values? For example, let us assume the value of R is from 1 to 10 and the value of T is also from 1 to 10. Let us calculate for 1, 1. R is equal to 1, T is equal to 1. Then calculate R is equal to 1, T is equal to 2, and so on and so forth. So I can create a set of table, a complete table I can create. just like it has created here in front of you. On this side, it is written years. Years is T. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20, 25, whatever. And on the other side, it has written the discount rates 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But it calculated 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 and 15. Right? Now, let us put these values for the first, for calculating the first value. We say year is equal to 1, and meaning T is equal to 1 and R is equal to 5. So put T is equal to 1 and R is equal to 5 and calculate this thing, only this thing, discount factor. The discount factor will come out to be 0.9524. If you do it with 6, if you do it with the R of 6, it will be 0.9434. So he calculated the whole table. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Now you can find any value. What is 10 after 10 years at 10% would be 0.3855. What about on 15% after 5 years will be 0.4972. So you have all the values. This table is created. This kind of table is called NPV discount factor table. And this is so common that in every financial book, in every book on finance or statistics, you will find this kind of table, ready-made table there. So you can consult that table. So if you have the value of R and T, you can find the discount rate and simply multiply that with your future value and it will give you the present value. Okay.
Sir, I understand like we need to calculate the future value, but why do we need to calculate present value?
Oh, no. We don't need to calculate the future value. In our project, we know that after 1 year I'll get 20,000 rupees. Agreed? Our cash flow says
Yes.
that we will get 20,000 rupees after 1 year. That 20,000 is our future value. That 20,000 is the future value after 1 year. I do not know how much that will be in my current currency. How much worth that money is today. You understand my point? Okay.
I see, sir.
Let
Okay.
let
Okay.
me rephrase. The 20,000 I am going to get after 1 year, how much is it worth today? I want to find the present value of that future money,
Okay, sir. I got it.
right? So I have
But
to multiply it with the discount factor or I have to put these values into this whole formula and I will find out. So let us say, uh, let me move on to the next slide. Okay, everything disappeared. Okay, right. Can you see this slide or not? What is on your screen?
the same slide, sir.
Okay, let me refresh it and tell me when it changes. Did it change?
Not yet, sir.
Check now.
Still the same net present value slide. Maybe I'll refresh. Let me refresh maybe.
Okay, Asad, how are you? Welcome. You are quite a bit late, but you did join. Today we are covering cost management, and we were doing the cost benefit analysis calculations. And we have done the net profit method, we have done the payback period, we have done the ROI method, and now we were doing the net present value method. You can hear the slide recordings later, but I'm just giving you a catch up.
I got it now, sir. I got it.
No. Okay, I was talking about this project one. Project one, I invested 100,000 rupees, right? This 100,000 I invested today, right? So this is already present value. This is present money, so present value. But 10,000 rupees, which are going to be the revenue after 1 year, is not in my hand right now. But there is a promise that I will have this 10,000 after 1 year. Can we know what is the worth of those 10,000 rupees today? So I will put that into the formula, and the discount factor for that comes out to be 0.9091. So if I multiply 10,000 with 0.9091, this comes out to be 9,091. Meaning what? This is the formula where we placed it right in the bottom. This is the calculation. 10,000 multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus 10 divided by 100 raised to the power 1. So if we calculate this, we will find the value will be exactly the 9,091 rupees. So this is the present value of this future money, right? Okay. If you have, if somebody promises you to give you 10,000 rupees 1 year later, you don't want to wait for 1 year. How much should you demand in present money? What is the present value of 10,000 at the rate of 10%, at a discount rate of 10%?
Sir, one thing, like, why do we want to calculate uh, the present value of a future value? Because we are going to get it in the future anyway. So why are we concerned that how much is it now?
In future, the value, the inflation and other things will happen, and that money, 10,000, is not really equivalent to today's 10,000. You understand this? That 10,000 I'm
Uh,
going to get in future is not equivalent to today's money. But I am doing a flat calculation. I am saying, okay, 10,000 is recovered. Actually, it is not 10,000 recovered. The recovery will be only 9,091 rupees. According to the present value, the recovery, or you can say, with respect to the money invested, which was the present value money, the 1 lakh rupees. How much have you recovered after 1 year? Only 9,091 rupees. Does it make sense?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me put it another way. As I was saying, I promise you that I will give you 10,000 rupees after 1 year. But for the whole 1 year, that 10,000 is not in your pocket. It is just an assumption that you will get it, right? And you also know that that 10,000 is worth only 9,091 rupees now. Therefore, you can say, please give me this 9,091 rupees now, and I am not ready to wait for 1 year. So you are leaving out 89 rupees. That is the weight, the allowance for the 1 year. In present money, you are satisfied with 9,091 rupees. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So for project 1, if I calculate the present values for every amount, which amount of revenue we are getting, the 10,000 which we receive after 1 year is worth 9,091 rupees. The 10,000 we receive after the 2 years, it is worth only 8,264 rupees. The 10,000 which I get after 3 years is today worth only 7,513 rupees. 20,000 which I get after 4 years is worth only 13,660 rupees. And the 1 lakh rupees which I get after 5 years is worth only 62,090 rupees. If I sum them up all up and subtract them from 100,000, the amount which is left in profit is only 618 pounds. 618, which is as compared to 50,000 net profit, actual picture is the net present value is only 618. Net present value is sum of all of these amounts. This comes out to be only 618. Can you see the difference between 50,000 and 618? Actually, from the present value of money perspective, or for that matter, value of money perspective, you are only making 618 pounds for your investment of 100,000 over 5 years. Is it a sane business? Will you like to go for such like business or such like project which is giving you such a small amount? Although it is giving you a benefit, but such a small benefit, you will never like to go for that. So this was just one project. Let us see what other projects are yielding in present value, net present value. Okay. If you can see the next picture, this is a summary of all what we have done so far. What have we got? The present value of project 1 is 600 something. The net present value of the project 2 is minus 1,79,750 rupees. Why is that? Minus. Whereas it was saying it is the, net profit was the biggest one, highest, 100,000. Here, when we calculate the net present value, this goes in negative. This is loss, total loss, right? So the best project from net profit perspective becomes the worst project from NPV perspective. And we have already found out in ROI that project 2 was anyways the worst project. The interesting thing is, we now could differentiate between project 1 and 3, which is better. Net present value of project 1 is only 600 something, whereas the net present value of project 3 is 13,723. That means this is better. Project 3 is better than project 1. And which is the best one? Again, project 4 is the winner. The net present value is 21,665 pounds. So you see, when we calculate the net present value, the situation greatly changes. But we have also seen that the results of ROI and NPV are almost very similar, but at the same time, now we are able to differentiate between project 1 and project 3, which ROI could not. Any confusions? This is pure, I know it is pure calculation, but I want you to understand that net present value is converting everything, all the cash flows into the present value and calculating the exact actual worth of the project. Yes, please. Any ideas, any comments?
Sir, where does the discount rate come from?
Okay, very good question. Discount rate and the interest rate, both of these are mandated by the Federal Reserve or the National Bank or the State Bank of Pakistan, or whichever is the governing banking authority in the bank in the country. So State Bank of Pakistan determines the discount rate and the interest rate for the banks. You might have heard in the budget, and after the budget, State Bank announces the
Yeah.
discount rate and the interest rate.
Sir, is it the inflation rate or is it just the?
Well, inflation affects it, and due to inflation, these rates are calculated this way. But that is the responsibility of State Bank to build in the inflation into these rates. But this is what it is. The difference between these two rates, they are not exactly the same. When you take loan from the bank, you pay them back more. When you uh, put the money in the bank, they will pay you less. You understand that? It is not the same amount. The amount they pay you as interest is actually the discount rate. And they charge you the interest actually. When you take loan of the bank, they charge you the interest rate. When you put your money in the bank, they give you the discount rate. And the difference between the two is, say, it is 8 and 10%. The 2% bank is making for itself, or it is catering for inflation in that money. Got it?
Yes, sir. Okay.
I hope I'm not confusing you more.
No, sir. This is pretty clear.
Okay, now I'll give you another picture. Banks run on the difference between the interest rate and discount rate. But it is not all. Banks make money out of something else also. When you deposit your money into the bank not only makes money out of the difference between the interest and discount rate, but they invest your money in some business and they get profits out of that. If the interest from the bank is 10%, then the interest from the business should be more than 10%. As if the bank can make more money and pay less to its customers. So that's how banks make money. Businesses usually yield more profit. And you can't imagine how much profit a business can yield. Generally speaking, a business should double its, for that matter, not double, let me say, should recover its investment in 2 to 3 years, right? So when you start a new business, for the first 2 to 3 years, you are just recovering. Therefore, all the operating expenses for first 2 to 3 years are to be borne by you and they are included in the cash flows. They are your investment. After that, you start earning money. So then you will start recovering your money and then ultimately you should have recovered all your money in next 2 to 3 years. This is a general layout. But practically, a business aims at not only recovering all its money, but making 100% profit within 1 to 2 years. That is the actual scenario with the businesses. So if you invest 100,000, you intend making 200,000 by the end of the year. You have recovered 100,000 and you have made profit 100,000. And then the cycle continues. So if the bank is investing your money in such like business and making 100% and paying you only 10%, where is 90% going? They are saving it for themselves. That's why banks are so rich. That's why bank jobs are so well paying. Right? So if you are analyzing uh, your business investment according to NPV, then you are highly flawed. Although it did give you a clear picture that you should not be making negative money from state banks given discount and interest rate, you should not be making less than that, because if you are making less than that in your business, then you should be actually investing your money into a bank account. But generally businesses will make much more than that, and your business should also make much more than that. Therefore, we will move on to another method, and that is called net present IRR, internal rate of return. Now, internal rate of return applies exactly the same formula which NPV uses, with the difference that it does not have a discount rate. We do not know the discount rate. We have to find the discount rate in IRR. Why? We don't want to take the rate State Bank of Pakistan has given us, because that is for the banking purposes. What is the internal rate of return of my own project or my own business? That is a very complicated question, but I do understand from the previous calculations that the NPV which we calculated, that value could sometimes come negative and sometimes that could be positive. Are you with me? I have gone back to NPV and I am saying when you calculated NPV, for some project the values were positive, for some projects the values were negative. Was it the case?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This was very much possible that there could be a project with zero NPV. Was it possible?
Yes, zero and even minus, I think both are possible.
Even minus, right. What does zero mean? If there is a NPV is zero, what does zero mean?
That
Zero
means
means,
we didn't earn
yes,
anything.
exactly. That means from the present value perspective, from the NPV perspective, whatever we have spent, we have received. On exactly that much money we have received. We have saved nothing. We are at point zero, right? So that point zero is indicative that anything after that will be profit. Agreed? So if I am talking about IRR, I am asking you that we don't know the discount rate, find that discount rate at which the NPV will become zero. I am now giving you a difficult situation. I am asking you I'm not giving you a discount rate. I'm not telling you a discount rate. I am asking you to find the discount rate of your project where NPV will become zero. How can you do that? I tell you, this is a very difficult question. This has to be done by hit and trial. I'll not consider bank rate at all. I'll start giving random percentage values to the formula of NPV and try to calculate the value of NPV. And when I get a point where I get exactly a zero value, that percentage would be my discount rate, or that percentage would be my IRR. So I start calculating by putting 1%, 2%, 3%. So my value of NPV is calculated by each percentage. I am changing the percentage. So all the calculation of NPV is going to be done repeated times for 1%, for 2%, for 3%, for 4%. And we will see our value from positive will start going in negative. I find that happened between 6 and 8%. So I will try 7%. Still I get a negative value. I try 6.8%. Still I get a negative value. I try 6.7%. Now I get a positive value. So my value is between, my zero is between 6.7 and 6.8. So I try 6.75, and this is how I keep digging down and I come up with a percentage 6.7531. 6.7531, where my NPV becomes exactly zero. So this 6.7531 is my IRR. And every project I am analyzing will have a different value for IRR. This project is 6.7531. The other project is 3.2131. Another project is something else. So we now understand that the NPV, if it is zero, then that percentage on which we have calculated the zero is IRR. More than IRR, better the project is. Less the IRR, the poorer the project is. Right? To make this calculation a bit more easier, although I know I have confused you even further, let me show you this diagram. Actually, this is a diagram showing the progression of values on different percentages. For example, on 8%, I was getting, you can understand this chart or you can't see it. Sorry. Let me share it again. Okay. Tell me when you can see it.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. If on the baseline are the percentages 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and on the vertical side we have, on the negative side negative money, on positive side positive money. So 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. So at 8 the value which came out is 8,000, right? And when I put in 12%, the value came out to be 6,000. If you get two values, one positive and one negative, you can simply connect them by a straight line, because all the values in between will fall approximately on the same straight line. So see where this straight line is crossing your percentage baseline. You find that it is 10.24. So approximately at 10.24, your NPV must become 0. Try 10.24 and see if your NPV becomes 0 or not. If not, then you can move it a little plus or minus in further points and you will find the exact value. But by doing this, you can save a lot of calculation. I know this is very difficult calculation, very lengthy calculation. So you can make use of Excel sheet. In Excel or in statistics, any software in statistics will have a formula for internal rate of return. And you don't have to go through all this calculation. That will straightaway tell you the internal rate of return of your project. If you tell it these values, if you give it the cash flows, it will calculate the IRR for you and will tell you what is the percentage at which you can make the maximum profit. Got it, Ji?
Yes, sir.
Okay, these were the 5 methods. I will leave today's lecture here. We have discussed cost benefit analysis in detail. We have discussed all the 5 methods. First was the net profit, then was the payback period, then was the ROI, fourth was the NPV, and the last one is IRR. I know and I understand this is mathematics, this is calculations, and some of you who are not really very good in calculations might feel lost. But probably the way I tried to present it, I tried to make it a calculation for a layman, and I hope you understand it. And if you don't, then please ask me now or maybe tomorrow or later. But if there is any doubt, you must clarify that, because these 5 methods will be used almost everywhere in project management, because cost benefit analysis is done at various places. Any questions?
So for now, it's okay. Maybe tomorrow I'll ask some questions because
Fine.
I'll try to repeat it and then.
Okay. So,
And tomorrow,
yes.
sorry, sir. Tomorrow we are going to have class on the same time, right?
Yeah, of course. Now we will
Okay.
have daily class. We will not break on Saturday and Sunday. Those who are not attending, they are not attending even now. So they can hear to the recordings later. I'll try to complete the course by 28th of May. And if anything is left, then I'll complete it later. So that's that. Asad, is it okay with you? Ji Asad. Okay. So if that be the case, we call it a day or whatever, the night, whatever you want to call it. So thank you very much for being with me and going through this very difficult lecture, but I hope this has benefited. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you very much, sir. Good night.